Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners and macabre murders from across the centuries and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 85.
85.
85.
The 80s are going very slowly, I feel.
Wow.
I
Why?
don't know, it just seems... It's been 80s for years.
It's been 5 episodes.
That seems like such a long time.
Well, the 80s did drag.
Well, this is true.
I mean, you and I both remember the 80s.
Yeah, just about. I was very small.
Very, very, very
I
tiny.
was tiny.
I remember the 80s. Yeah.
You're a year older than me, so let's not make too much out of it.
Well, excuse me for being a year older than you. I am wise with worldly wisdom.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah.
Oh, the sights that we saw.
Absolutely.
The shell suits as far as the eye could see.
Oh, I had a very good shell suit. It was pink and green. Me and my brother had matching shell suits.
Oh, you have to dole that comedy out in little bite-sized chunks. I can't handle that. I can't handle you and Paul, little bit.
Yeah.
In matching shell suits.
Matching
How
shell
old
suits.
were you?
Oh, 6, 5, 6.
Oh, okay, that's
like
all right. That's all right. I thought you were going to say like 15.
That would be upsetting. No, we were somewhat younger than that.
Hanging out on the corner.
We were
picking
really
up
cool.
all the ladies.
Absolutely.
Oh, 5 or 6 and you were wearing matching shell
Oh,
suits.
yeah.
Oh, that's the most terrible thing ever. I never had a shell suit.
I see deprived child.
I saw them from afar.
And coveted them.
If only
If
I
only
had a
I
shell
went to
suit.
bed dreaming of a shell suit.
I remember, I have a vivid memory of being a child wearing a pair of jeans that would be very fashionable now, at the time were not. And I was wearing like white socks with black shoes, and I thought like, I look smart, I look sophisticated. No, I didn't.
You did not. No.
Now, totally on trend.
Is it?
Ahead of my time, my
Wow,
friend.
that's a trend setter. Someone saw you there and thought, oh, that'll be good in 30 years. And they had it stored up there in a box.
Everyone looks at my work. That'll be good in 30
Open
years.
this in 2021. And they did and went, genius.
Or it was like the Ark of the Covenant.
And many faces were melted.
How are you, Nick?
I'm alright.
Good.
Yeah, good.
That's it.
I'm
Yeah.
on my pre-cocktail.
We had a pre-cocktail.
Yeah,
As in we had 2.
obviously.
Any poisonings this week?
No.
No?
No, it's been quiet and calm and all is well within the house.
Within the
Or
house.
just generally.
Excuse me, Edgar Allan Poe. Going within the house of Usher. All is well.
All is well. So,
Not seeing your housemates today.
Well, this is true. So, well, you'll find out.
I'm going to find them like I'll find
But
a tiny
potentially.
pumpkin.
I've turned them into tiny pumpkins. I've stuffed them in the tiny pumpkins.
And served them in a dinner. Well, speaking of stuffing bodies in tiny, tiny pumpkins, and not poisoning anyone, but really poisoning people, I think it's time for us to thank our lovely, delicious Patreon subscribers.
We should indeed. They are all marvellous. I thought we had no new ones this week. Boo.
That's okay.
But
That's okay.
no, you keep on saying this. I go, no. Where is everyone? We're marvellous.
Nick is always benevolent and sort of like, no, let's not over-push ourselves. He was at the start reluctant, like, no, we mustn't advertise too much. Now he's like, I need more Patreon subscribers.
Absolutely.
More people.
We need more followers.
We don't get new Patreon subscribers every week. Some weeks we get a whole glut of them, but we love every single one of the hundreds of our
Well,
Patreon
yes.
subscribers. They are fantastic. They are beautiful. They have been having a hell of a chat this week.
Well, yes, there's been quite the discussion.
Indeed, because this week's Patreon episode, we went a little dark. It was a bit serious, and people had some really serious
Nick got angry.
Nick was not happy.
Nick is talking about himself in the third person as well. It's very weird.
Yes, Patreon this week was a hotbed of discussion and some really impassioned thoughts on the episode we covered. We may have wandered into the territory of devilry, but to find out what indeed we were talking about and to join the debate, please do go over and check out our Patreon. It is but $5 a month. You get a whole ream of episodes, a whole back catalogue you can access.
Many.
And you can stay, you can leave, whatever floats your boat.
But you won't want to leave once you're in.
Well, Nick.
Hello.
Are you ready? You drink cocktails, no man poison?
Oh, I've drunk a lot of cocktails. They're going to my head, I have to say.
We could drink poison. We could talk about cocktails. We could open our own bar
Excellent.
and our own poison place.
Sounds like
Palace.
a brilliant plan.
Should we go with the first
Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on.
Let's go with the first one. Let us drink cocktails and talk about poison. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Well, it is Nick's story this week, but as we've established, we can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell and will flavour our cocktail of the week. Nick's story this week, so his pick...
Yes.
I'm so excited. I can't tell people how excited I am. People are very confused by this already. But Nick, what is the secret ingredient?
Secret ingredient is a shark.
A shark! Sharks! I bloody love a shark.
And for everyone's eardrums who were just blown out then, Sinead really enjoys a shark.
Every week is Shark Week for me. Love a goddamn shark. Let's talk about sharks. I don't care about the murder story. Let's just talk about sharks. Let's talk about the Mako shark, fastest shark ever.
But it's not one of them.
No, which shark is responsible for the most number of deaths, Nick?
A lone shark.
A lone shark. Oh, you hoisted me in there, didn't you? You hoisted me in. Maybe, actually, yes. No,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I don't think I have any comeback from that. It was too good. It was too good.
Oh, the rapier wit of...
Actually, it's the oceanic white tip. Because they are responsible for lots of people being eaten by ships lost at sea. I have a lot of these back.
Oh, this is... I thought this was going to be a relatively short episode. Oh, no. Oh, no.
I just love sharks. Or I'm just obsessed
Well,
with
there
sharks.
is also a Demon Gin song about the sharks.
It is, and it is coming out soon.
So
that
there
I
we
have finally mastered, and it's a sad song about sharks. The saddest shark song ever. I need to stop talking
You probably
because I'm
do.
obsessed with sharks.
No.
So shark is a secret ingredient. It's not very spooky though.
Okay, it's a ghost shark. A haunted shark. Wizard shark!
Wizard shark!
Ghosty wizard shark. How's
This is
that?
like Sharknado, but ghost shark.
I'm quite tempted by wizard shark.
Does it have a hat?
It does on the fin. Fin is painted like with golden stars and moons and things.
Da 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 da. Shazam! Does it have a little wand in one fin? And a beard! Okay, I'm very, very excited. I'm hoping a shark is going to turn up in this room. So with sharks, yay, as our
Yes.
secret ingredient, what have you come up with?
Well, we are having a cocktail called...
Right.
We're having a shark bite.
A shark bite!
A shark bite.
Oh, I've not heard of this.
Indeed.
Quite savage.
Oh, well, we'll find out.
Unless it's a small shark. Then it's a shark nibble.
So we'll find out quite how savage the bite is.
I think it is high time for us to dive into the Poisoner's Cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, so we'll see you in a minute.
See you in a bit.
And we're back!
Hello.
Oh, Nick, I'm so excited. This is up there with one of the most striking cocktails we've ever had. Because it's goddamn blue!
Well, it's certainly Halloweeny, isn't it, I suppose? It's got the Halloweeny drama to it.
Yes, I will forgive you for maybe swapping spooky for sharky. But it's not only blue, but as a shark bite, it appears to have lines of blood running through
It's
it.
got all the blood dripping. Is that not spooky enough?
It is amazing. It is blue and it is streaked with a red substance, which may well be blood. He may just be giving me blood, people. I don't know. So this is exciting enough as it is. In a beautiful glass. Now with crushed ice and a straw. So should we stir it before we drink it? Should we stir in the bloodiness?
I think the bloodiness, I can't imagine it's going to add a huge amount to the flavour.
Okay.
It's very for the look.
So like the sea blue streaked with blood from the shark's bite. I am in hog's heaven, Nick. Okay, so let's taste it. Merry Christmas. Okay, right.
That's not unpleasant.
Oh, that's nice. Oh my god, I love that.
That's
that
pretty good.
immediately is ticking all the boxes. Maybe a second sip will show more, but oh, that's sharp, long, fruity. Oh my.
I'm surprised by that. That's actually really good.
Oh my god, that's great. Oh, that is right up there on my cup of tea. It's sort of, I don't know what's in it. It's in margarita territory, so it's sharp and it's citrusy, but it's got good flavour behind it. Oh, it's so nicely balanced, nice and oh my god, yes, Nick. I could not be happier with the start of this episode.
Excellent.
We can end it now and all would be
Let's
well.
just be done with it.
Well, you need to tell us what's in
I
this
do.
marvel of the shark's bite.
So we have rum.
Yay!
So we have a spiced rum and a white rum. We have 2 types of rum.
Why settle with one when you can
Well,
have
exactly.
two?
2 should be best. Blue curacao, obviously.
Not
Then,
blue WKD.
not blue WKD or blue food colouring or antifreeze or anything like that that's also blue. Then there is a bit of lime juice and a bit of sugar.
Perfect.
That's it. And then just a massive crushed ice. So you need the crushed ice because when you drop the grenadine over to make the bloodiness, if it's just no ice in there, it just instantly dissolves. It needs something to cling to make that sort of streaky, droppy effect. So that's why you need a lot of ice in there to get that effect.
So that's the base of the cocktail, but then you have grenadine streaked through it to give it
Gives
the
you the bloody
blood-like effect.
bloody drop. Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's just a few drops, so it's not going to impact the flavour at all, but
No.
it just looks great.
It truly does, Nick. That is a blinder.
So yeah, if you were having a Halloween party or something,
yes, it would.
you could make a huge batch of this up in a big old punch bowl with a load of ice and some grenadine, and it'll make a great sort of punch for parties and things like that.
Yeah, it would. Guys, we have done it. We have come up with the ultimate Halloween cocktail. It's blue, it's creepy, it's got blood streaked through it, and it tastes goddamn delicious.
And there's a lot of ice, so you're not going to get instantly wrecked.
It's got the qualities of a good daiquiri, you know, because
Yeah,
you've got rum and
got
lime,
rum
in
and
there,
lime
a
and
bit of
sugar.
with a bit added blue and orange in there. I mean, you can't go wrong,
Yeah,
can
it's good.
you?
I like it.
Delicious cocktail. It looks good, and I know there's sharks ahead of us.
So I've got a lot of writing on this already, haven't I? So, I've set myself up. This better be damn good.
If there are no sharks in this,
There are
I
no
will kill you.
Someone once saw a picture of a shark. I went, oh, that's a sharky. They were watching Shark Week, and then they got murdered.
I mean, that's fine. Well, with our shark bites firmly in hand, strolling down the seafront, if you
Indeed.
will, on a spooky night. Is it time for a story, Nick?
It is most certainly it's time for a story.
Good luck.
This week we are going on holiday.
Yay!
We are going to the golden sands of Coogee Beach.
Cool bit.
Coogee Beach in Sydney, Australia.
I think I know what this is.
Yeah.
Australia. Oh, we don't go to Australia that often.
We don't, so we're going there this week. It is the 17th of April, 1935.
Oh, yeah, it is. I think I know this story, and now I'm just so happy. I'm so happy that you're doing it, and I didn't have to struggle through it.
Bert Hobson is out on his fishing boat with his son, and they are reeling in the latest catch of the day. But it's a small shark. A little shark is a pretty common thing around the Sydney coastline. As Bert is about to haul this small shark into the boat, he spots a shadow approaching fast under the water.
Nice.
And just in time, he moves back from the water's edge, and a 14-foot tiger shark erupts from the surface and devours this smaller shark. Tasty, tasty lunch. But he has somewhat come a cropper, because he is now stuck.
Yes.
He is rather stuck. He has just eaten a shark on the end of a fishing line. And he is now itself hooked on this line. Now, seeing this massive shark sort of thrashing around at the end trying to get free, you might think that Bert would sort of cut the line and get the fuck out of there.
Well, yes.
That would be my instinct.
Generally, if a shark's on your boat,
Yeah.
thrashing around.
Well, he's
yeah,
not on the boat, he's in the water on the end of the line.
The shark was bait for the other shark.
Exactly. So a normal person would go, fuck this, cut the line, let the shark off, and get the hell out of there. But he's made of sterner stuff than this. He's not put off by a 14-foot tiger shark.
Well, that's quite a find.
Well, indeed. And he turns round and heads straight back to shore, dragging this shark behind him through the water towards the beach. See, Bert Hobson is not only a fisherman, a fearless fisherman by the sounds of it, but he is also the owner of Coogee Aquarium, and he instantly recognises an opportunity to revitalise his flagging business with this new star attraction, this massive shark.
Well, so in the 30s, not a lot of sharks in aquariums.
Not
at
a
that
lot of
time.
sharks in aquariums.
And a 14-footer. Picture that.
Big old beastie. Bob is absolutely right. This shark is a hit. And as news spreads of this new attraction, people come from miles around to gawp at this sort of vicious beastie that he's got.
So he's captured it alive.
He's captured it alive, he's dragged it back to shore, and he's got it into a tank in his aquarium.
Now, I'm not okay with that, but I realise it was done in the 30s.
It was we're talking 30s here, so animal sort of welfare not high on the agenda, unfortunately. The tank is 15 foot wide by 25 foot long.
Don't tell me that. It's not a good life.
It's not a good life for this shark. So yes,
God.
at this time in Sydney, sharks are pretty much public enemy number one. In April, we're height of Australian summer, and the previous 2 months, 3 young men had been killed by sharks out at sea, swimming and surfing, and as such things that Australians do. And they are frequently spotted coming close into shore and causing terror on the beaches and panic.
You are literally going into its house.
I haven't, absolutely.
You're diving into its house and it's going to go, get out!
So when the opportunity comes to see one of these vicious beasties in the flesh, but in a safe environment, people go, yeah, I want to see what's going on there. And they flock to the aquarium. For a number of days, the shark he seems quite active. He's got a voracious appetite. But on the 25th of April, which is Anzac Day, it begins acting a bit strangely. Now, Anzac Day is a public holiday in Australia. It's the equivalent of Memorial Day in the States and such like. And the park is packed with tourists and families and such, all eager to catch a glimpse of this shark.
Okay.
But there is definitely something wrong with the animal. It seems to have lost all its energy. It appears perhaps a bit ill. It's moving slowly. It's bumping into the sides of the tank, of its tiny, tiny tank.
Is the shark drunk?
Well, it seems very listless. Everyone is a bit disappointed. They have come to see this vicious murdering machine, and they're seeing this sort of, it's a lazy shark, poke the shark, get him moving around a bit and things like that on the bottom of this tank.
Do something,
Come on, entertain us, poke the shark.
Yes, because animals are there to dance for us.
Absolutely. Suddenly, there is this huge burst of movement. The shark thrashes from side to side, and the spectators, they sort of squash in closer to see what's going on, and the shark vomits up the contents of its stomach.
Oh.
When the foam settles down in the tank, the crowd of aquarium guests see a partially digested human arm floating on the pool's surface.
Yes, they do. That is what 100% of people who go to aquariums are waiting for. The predator, please throw up someone's body. An arm. In front of the children.
In front of all the children who are there with their parents to come and look at the wonder of nature, vomiting arms at people.
Well, that's a wonder of nature, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way.
At the park that day, there's a chap called Narcisse Leo Young.
Good name.
Which is an excellent name. Now, he works for the Sydney Herald, and he is one of the spectators, and he writes in an article that I was 3 or 4 metres from the shark and clearly saw come out of its mouth a copious brown froth, which smelled incredibly foul. In addition to the arm, he said, the shark also expelled a bird, a rat, and a load of muck.
Don't judge the shark, sorry.
There's much judgment going on.
It's
much
just
judgment.
it ate a bird and a
bird
rat.
and a rat and a person.
And a load of muck. Leave the shark alone. It's doing its best.
After sort of the unsurprising screaming and shouting has sort of slightly subsided, the authorities arrive on the scene.
Yeah, who killed this bird and this rat?
Now, of course, the assumption is that this is yet another accidental victim in this string of shark attacks that have been reported that summer. Perhaps some tourists that no one had reported missing or something like that. But at the autopsy, things become rather more unsettling. The coroner's report reveals that the arm has not been bitten off in a shark attack.
What?
As they had expected. It has been cut off with a knife. Now, the coroner goes on to say that this is not a surgical amputation, and therefore they rule out some sort of bizarre medical school prank or hospital waste that's gone astray, but it is a crude hacking off the limb to sever it from the body. Eaton, an arm that he's found lying around the place.
There's an arm in the water.
There's an arm in the water, and he's just, look, tasty treats. Now, based on the level of digestion of the arm, they are able to sort of calculate, they've probably been in the shark system for anywhere between 8 and 14 days, they think, based on the level of acidity and such like. People aren't entirely sure. Was it eaten by the smaller shark, who was then eaten by the bigger shark? So it's like an arm within a shark within a shark.
Yeah, it's like a Russian doll.
Well, like a Russian doll of sharks, of arms. Or was it eaten by the big shark, who then ate the small shark? Everything
killed
came
the
out.
cat that ate the rat that lived in the house.
Exactly. So no one quite know which order it goes in.
Okay.
But what they do think is, obviously, this is not an accident. There is definitely some sort of foul play at hand going on here.
The shark got onto land and bit someone's arm off?
Well, they think there's probably no one-armed man still at large in Sydney.
Large, one-armed men.
One-armed man just roaming the streets of Sydney. There's
fighting sharks at every corner.
No one has been been registered at a hospital with such an accident or injury or something like that. The person who this arm belonged to is most likely dead. There's most likely has been a murder.
Someone has been chopped up.
Someone has been killed, someone has been chopped up and
Sprinkled into the water.
either deliberately fed to a shark or just dumped in the ocean or something, and the shark has come along and seen this sort of tasty buffet. Now, the first step is trying to identify who the arm belongs to. Unfortunately, the police are actually able to retrieve a set of fingerprints from the arm, but with nothing to compare them to, they are still at a bit of a loss. There are no great databases and things like that at this time that they can go. They can run them. This is the 30s, so they can run them through, compare them to their own little set they've got at that station, but that's about it, and there's no matches there. The coroner does find something interesting. On the arm, he's able to make out a faded and mostly digested tattoo.
Oh, nice.
The image is of two boxers squaring up to each other, about to fight.
It's a weird tattoo to have.
It's a weird, unless you're a boxer.
Wouldn't it be weird if he'd had a tattoo of a shark eating an arm?
That would be weirder and slightly
Sometimes
pathetic.
that tattoo the future.
The police release this detail to the press.
They release the detail.
And they release the shark into Sydney as well.
Is the shark okay?
The shark is not okay.
Does the shark die?
The shark does get killed.
Get killed?
Yeah. They think there might be more bits of person inside the shark. So they end up killing the shark and cutting the shark open to discover there's no more bits of people in the shark. So they do end up killing the shark to see if there are more people inside there.
More people in there. Hello, help
Perhaps a
me.
wallet or something like that would have been helpful. The shark does not do well in this story. So the police have released this information, this detail of this tattoo to the press. And they think there can't have been that many people with this tattoo. It's quite an unusual tattoo, who have recently gone missing. So they think someone is bound to recognise this person. And they are right. They are absolutely right. One morning, Edwin Smith is reading about what has happened at the Kogi Aquarium. And when he comes across a detail that makes him go, ooh. Oh, he goes.
He's sitting there and his wife goes, "You've never made that noise before."
Oh. When he read of the description of the tattoo of these two boxers, he immediately recognises as this is a tattoo that his brother James has. And James has been missing, also not heard of, for several weeks. So Edwin goes to the police with his suspicions, and the authorities are able to collect samples of fingerprints from James's home and confirm that, yes, this is the arm that belongs to James Smith. They now have their identification. No one has heard from James for several weeks now, but there are no hospital reports of a one-armed man coming in, and he certainly would have needed medical treatment if his arm had been hacked off. So the assumption is made that Smith is most likely dead, and the rest of him is either at the bottom of the ocean or in the belly of another shark somewhere. And while it is obvious that this is a terrible fate to befall anyone, no one is entirely surprised that he's come to a bit of a sticky end, really.
Really?
Yeah, he's no one's surprised that the violence has been involved.
That he had his arm cut off and fed to a shark.
Well, not necessarily fed to a shark. His arm has been cut off and he's been dumped in the ocean.
Oh, okay, fine.
So I don't
no one had a
necessarily-
pet shark.
Yeah, I think that's going slightly James Bond sort of villain-esque.
Which I would be here for.
with
This is not the way this story is going.
Unfortunately, we're not going to a volcano with a man with sharks. So
Never go to a volcano with a man with sharks.
I know, it's all very disappointing.
This man has ended up in the ocean.
In
cut
the
up
ocean.
into pieces.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking maybe some sort of organised crime might
That
be involved.
could well be the case.
That's usually the way people end up.
Yeah, indeed.
No.
A mugging gone very bizarrely wrong or something. So the 45-year-old Smith, he is a bankrupt builder. He's a former bookmaker, he's a failed boxer, and he's a petty criminal with a record of a whole raft of minor convictions. His latest job was managing a local billiards hall that was home to an illegal gambling operation. Alongside all this, he has a history of a police informant as well.
Right.
So he's not really popular with anyone.
Covering
really,
all the
he's
bases
covering
there,
all
isn't he?
bases. Not trusted by the criminals, not trusted by the police. He's not an overly popular chap, really. Obviously, the police investigate what has happened to him, and they find that Smith had last been seen drinking with one of his friends, a chap called Patrick Brady, in the Cecil Hotel. After that, they had returned to a cottage that had rented by Brady on the shores of Gunnamatta Bay. in Sydney. Turns out, eventually, that Patrick Brady is also quite well known to the police and has got a record for forgery. He's a master criminal himself. Police try to trace the movements of Smith and Brady, and they find a cab driver who remembered on the morning after Smith had returned to the cottage with Brady. Brady had left the cottage and hailed the cab driver, and he was by himself. He was alone. There was no sign of Smith. Okay. The driver reports that he took Brady to North Sydney, where he dropped him off outside a house. That house turned out to be the home of businessman Reginald Lloyd Holmes. Now, Holmes is a seemingly respectable entrepreneur. He runs a very successful boat building business on the harbour. But there are also rumours that Holmes is involved in other more nefarious activities. Oh. But police have never been able to pin anything on him.
Shark cabaret.
Shark smuggling. Oh, it's terrible. Terrible crime.
Smuggles arms in the sharks off to the far corners of the earth.
He is believed to control a very lucrative smuggling ring. Using speedboats that he has built in his workshops, the boats will go out and pick up packages of cocaine and cigarettes and other contraband that are thrown overboard by his suppliers as they pass by in ships, rather than coming to dock and get through harbours and things like that.
International waters.
They just dump it in the ocean. He goes out in his boats and collects it and comes back, and no one is any the wiser. James Smith had been a sometimes employee of Holmes and was thought to have driven some of these speedboats during these smuggling missions. But the rumours were that they had recently had a rather serious falling out. Now, Holmes had his fingers in a lot of criminal pies. He was thought to be involved in forgery, but also insurance scams as well. And one of those scams had involved James Smith. Using various forged documents, Holmes had vastly overinsured one of his yachts that he had built, and he had recruited Smith to take this boat out to sea and sink it. Lose the boat. Some tragic accident.
Right, okay. Terrible accident.
Terrible accident at sea. This boat is insured for 5 times what it's actually worth, thanks to sort of some forged documents. It's got a really fancy engine and gold taps and all this sorts of stuff.
5 times their worth. What the hell did you do to this boat?
It's made of solid gold. And thank you, sir.
It's powered by sharks.
It's powered by sharks. It's actually more of a chariot. A sea chariot with sharks at the front.
I would 100% buy that boat for whatever the person was asking for.
Smith has dutifully carried out his task, going out to sea in this boat, having a terrible accident, somehow managing to make it back to shore. Holmes files his insurance claim for the loss of the vessel. But he later learns that Smith has in fact reported this incident as suspicious to the police. He has been on to the police and said, I did this for Holmes, He has informed on this fraudulent activity.
Double payment.
Indeed. And the insurance claim is rejected.
What a ruthless man.
On this. And Holmes ends up with nothing for the loss of his boat. This, unsurprisingly, leads to a really serious falling out between the two men. This is only exacerbated when Smith reportedly begins blackmailing Holmes, threatening to reveal his role as a criminal kingpin in Sydney if he doesn't get huge wadges of cash from Holmes.
Smith is asking for trouble.
He is walking a really fine line of getting some cash and being really stupid. Now, the police know that Holmes has a score to settle with James Smith, and they also know that Brady was the last person to see James Smith alive, and now Brady's taxi journey ties him directly to Holmes. Now, even with these 2 suspects, a motive and a severed arm, the case is far from closed. All the evidence the police have collected so far against Brady and Holmes is purely circumstantial.
Okay.
Nothing that a good defence cannot put down to gossip and coincidence, and they could probably get away with it. They do not have the hard evidence they need. They decide to try a different approach. They bring in Brady on forgery charges, completely unrelated to James Smith's murder.
Nice.
But they think we can put some pressure on him and maybe he'll give something up.
Oh, okay. So they've got him on something.
They've got him on something. Let's see if we can twist the screws. He might give us some information on something else. After an intense 6-hour interrogation, Brady confessed to what the police already suspected. Reginald Holmes is the mastermind behind the murder of James Smith. Now, whether Brady made some sort of deal with the cops to make this statement, we do not know. Perhaps we'll lessen the forgery charges if you give us evidence against Holmes or something like that.
Yeah.
Or just 6 hours, like, for fuck's sake, I'm bored now. So who knows? But this is now what he is saying. News gets to Holmes that the police are now on to him. He has informants in various places. He's probably paid off a few cops, so he gets this news that his name has been mentioned. Police are after him.
Yeah, he's quite the kingpin,
Well,
isn't he?
indeed. So, but by the time the authorities arrive at his house, Holmes is already on a speedboat in the middle of Sydney Harbour.
Yes.
He's out.
Yes, there's so few stories that end with a speedboat escape, and I have been waiting for this for so long.
The police boats are soon dispatched to try and apprehend him.
Oh my God, it's a speedboat chase.
And there's a speedboat chase around Sydney Harbour.
I would do that 100%. If I was in the middle of an inner city, I would travel 100 miles to get on a speedboat. Go, catch me now, fuckers.
He manages to evade his pursuers, all the while knocking back a bottle of whiskey.
Yes!
He managed to. So he's there knocking back
He's
a bottle of liquor, speedboating away.
He's amazing. How did they not catch him? Sorry, he's pissed.
Well, you'll find out.
Oh, okay.
There's always so much more.
He's so much better.
As he approaches the shore, he stops the boat and stands up on deck, brandishing a pistol.
Nice.
Then, without warning, he raises the pistol and shoots himself in the head
Oh, Jesus.
and falls into the water.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, indeed. And the police are having a similar reaction. What the hell's going on here? For a moment, it looks like this case is done and dusted. He's just
killed himself.
He's just killed himself in there. But, miraculously, somewhat,
No.
Holmes has survived. I think the intention was to kill himself. At the last minute, he got the angle wrong, or the bullet ricocheted off somewhere. And as he's fallen into the water, the shock of this cold water has brought him to his senses. And he manages to grab a rope that's trailing behind his boat and haul himself back on board while bleeding profusely from a bullet wound in his head.
Wow, instinct to stay alive.
Well, indeed. Holmes sets off again in his speedboat, thinking, obviously, this is meant to be.
No,
I'm not
he
meant to be
doesn't.
dead. I'm off. Police chase him for 4 hours.
What?
In the speedboat.
He stopped.
He stopped,
Shot himself in the
shot
head.
himself,
Ish,
fell into the
ish,
water,
climbed
back,
board.
and still managed to have enough of a head start that the police were still chasing him 4 hours later.
I mean, I'm not surprised that they were chasing him 4 hours later, because he shot himself in the head, shaved off a bit of his brain. He's going erratically around the globe.
Oh, it's all over the place.
I like the energy that midway through he went, I'm going to end it all. And then he kind of went, oh, I'm a bit scared. No, I'm just going to nick myself. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to drive off for 4 hours. I have to commit to this now.
Eventually, they are able to surround him, to cut him off, and force him to surrender. He is unsurprisingly arrested, and as soon as he is in an interrogation cell, he starts to talk. According to him, Patrick Brady is solely responsible for Smith's murder.
Really?
He acted entirely alone while killing and dismembering Smith in his cottage. And Holmes agrees to be a witness against Brady at any trial.
Wow.
So now both men are saying the other one did it and are
Yeah.
willing to testify against the other one. Holmes says that Brady had dumped most of the body parts out at sea somewhere, but apparently had held on to the arm and brought it to Holmes's house. Well, I think as proof that Smith was dead, and also as a threat, warning that I've done this, you can be next. If you don't give me a huge wad of cash, if I don't have an excellent payday coming, I've done this, what am I going to do to you? Holmes, unsurprisingly, doesn't like having a severed arm lying around the house, and throws it into the ocean, where apparently the shark then finds it and munches down upon it.
I mean, it's terribly bad luck, isn't it? I mean, this genuinely is terribly bad luck with the shark. It's
Absolutely.
Like, my God, man.
Yeah, all the other bits of Smith are out there. Probably loads of other sharks having a lovely time out there.
It's been nibbled.
Just been nibbled upon, and they never get shot. Patrick Brady is charged with the murder of James Smith, with Reginald Holmes acting as star witness for the prosecution. But at 1:20 a.m. on the 12th of June, just hours before the start of the trial, Reginald Holmes's body is found slumped over the wheel of his car with 3 bullet wounds in his chest.
No.
Completely dead.
Oh.
Now, without Holmes's testimony, the case against Brady completely collapses.
Yeah.
The cab driver is there, willing to testify that yes, Brady had been a bit dishevelled, had been a bit distracted when he left the cottage in the morning, but that is nowhere near enough. The defence also argue, well, that one arm evidence of murder.
Yeah. Good point. Point.
Can anyone really be 100% sure that an armless James Smith is not having a grand time somewhere, off elsewhere? And if not, where is the rest of him? No one can prove categorically that James Smith is even dead.
As we have proved on this podcast, the presence of poison does not necessarily mean murder has taken place.
This is very true. This is true. But then the prosecution also said, well, what about the murder of Reginald Holmes? This is our star witness who is now dead. Surely that points a rather incriminating finger at Brady.
Does it?
Well...
No.
That's an entirely separate matter, say the court. That's an entirely separate matter. If investigations link Brady to that murder, he'll be right back here on trial for that one. But at this point, nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it at all. Entirely circumstantial. The trial is over in less than 2 days.
Yes.
The judge directs that a verdict of not guilty should be reached. And Brady is acquitted and walks free from the court. He maintains for the rest of his life that he was entirely innocent. He did nothing until his death at the age of 76 in 1965. Police do investigate the murder of Holmes, as you would hope they would, and they find that he had actually taken out quite a substantial life insurance policy on himself just a few days before his death.
Interesting.
Police actually believed that he had hired his own killers. That he, knowing the insurance company would not pay out on a suicide, he had hired someone to shoot him.
So he wouldn't have to give evidence.
So he wouldn't have to give evidence.
And his family
would be well provided for.
Nice.
So that's the result that the police come to. The case for James Smith goes cold. And eventually police stop looking for the killer altogether. Years later, many years later, another theory is presented that many people have come to believe is true. Mm-hmm. In the 1930s, Sydney is in the middle of a crime wave. There are many gangs trying to control the drugs trade, gambling, prostitution in the city. There's one particularly violent chap, was Eddie Wayman. Now, it turns out that Smith, in his role as police informer, had been responsible for the capture of Wayman during a botched bank robbery. And many people think that when Wayman was released, he sought revenge on the man who had not only turned him in, but who was also likely responsible for many other arrests over the years.
Okay.
And at the time, going to the cops, being an informer, was the very worst crime of all in that world. If you were a snitch, then you're the lowest of the low.
Wow.
And people think that Eddie Wayman actually was the one responsible for Smith's murder. But we will never know for sure. Perhaps the shark did it all along.
The shark was walking on land, killing people wantonly.
That's the story of the Australian shark eating murder. Trying to think of it.
The shark eating murder. Yay! Oh, thank you for that story, Nick. Love it. I'm going to do full disclosure, but partial disclosure, because that's what it is. So I knew of this story. I knew a shark was involved, stopped reading after the shark was involved, because I was like, oh, I'll come back to this and research it another time. And I'm so glad you've done this story, because I was like, oh, this seems complicated. So I'm so glad you did this story. Oh, it's a good one. It's organised crime.
It is a good one, but it is a complicated one.
It's very complicated.
Probably not the best one to have done while drinking 3 cocktails. So I apologise if any random slurring or things went a bit weird.
No, it's a really good story because there's so many parties involved in it. But it's a good organised crime story. It's a wonderful story to start with of like creature feature. The shark. Oh, what bad luck.
Oh yeah, bad luck. For the shark.
Bad luck to throw the arm into the ocean. The ocean shall take it. This shark was brought in as an attraction for children of a Sunday, which is bad enough. The shark's going, this is horrible. You know what I'm going to do? I'll give you something to talk about. It's really interesting at the end of it. As you said, there's all this really which would turn out to be circumstantial evidence and speculation, but there's no evidence to link any of these people to the crime, presented as it is. If Murder Island has taught us nothing, and I will come back to that, it's a great series, people. Do watch it. We can speculate all we like. We can look at people's past convictions and crimes, it doesn't mean that they're guilty of that crime at hand. You can't convict someone in a court of law for, oh yes, they probably did do it.
They were wrong.
They're evil.
They're absolutely
nasty.
Yeah,
they're nasty.
indeed.
This one's so interesting. What happened to Holmes in the end?
Well, indeed. I mean, there was a thought that perhaps actually Eddie Wayman, the sort of the gang leader or something, did he have something to do with Holmes's death? Because Holmes had also sort of snitched on Brady as well at the end. He had said, I will testify against him, snitching out fellow criminals.
Absolutely. Worth multiple readings of it, because there's so many players in it, and it's not cut and dried. It's got just enough mystery all the way through it of, could it have been this person, could it have not? There's enough twists and turns that keep you going, and it had a shark in it, so I'm happy. Has this been turned into a film at any point?
Not that I'm aware of, but I wouldn't be surprised. There are many books and things written about it.
Books.
Yeah, and I think there's been like episodes of like CSI Miami, CSI Shark and stuff like that have been made based on this sort of story. But I don't know if anything specifically about this one has been. It
does feel like it's a good film or series that could be made out of this. The poor tiger shark that was dragged in and made to sit in a tank. Yeah. I will throw up everywhere, and then the shark was killed.
And then the shark was killed. There are actually there's being the 30s, there are a lot of pictures on this online, so you can see the shark in the tank and things.
It's not pleasant.
And you can see the arm that's been vomited up and stuff like that. There are pictures. Google it if you really want to.
Aquariums these days are not good.
Back then, even worse.
Even worse, but still. Good story. It's a modernish story as well. Something nice in the 20th century. Nice to delve
I like how we're
into
describing the 30s as modernish.
It is.
For us it is, yes,
For us
okay.
it is. What do you think, people? What do you think happened in this story? Was the shark responsible the whole way through this?
Was the shark the criminal mastermind behind it all?
Was the tiny shark the one who was really responsible, and the tiger shark was trying to stop it? It's just reign of terror. That's what happened.
We will never know.
We'll never know. Australian listeners, chime in. Just scream loudest. Go, I'm from Australia and I've heard of this, or I haven't heard of this, but I'm from Australia. Fabulous. We love you. Anyway, what shark facts do you know that you would like to share with us? By all means, message Sinead.
Sinead loves a shark. Can you tell?
Tell us your theories and your thoughts on it. Are there more organised crime stories you'd like us to cover? Because this is one of the rare occasions where we've delved into organised crime on the main episode, actually. We've covered a few in Patreon. Always happy to go into that area if it's what you want to hear and if it's amusing.
Only if it's amusing.
If it's got a funny animal involved.
Only if it's shark-based.
Most importantly, you must try a shark bite cocktail.
Oh, yes.
Wowzer. This is one of the best cocktails we've had in a long time.
Glowing praise from Sinead here, absolutely.
It's just 100% my cup of tea. It's beautiful, it tastes good, it looks good. Mix one up for Halloween. You will not regret it. Don't give it to the kids, or give it to the kids if you want them to sleep. And also, we really recommend having 2 Negronis and this cocktail before recording a podcast.
Yeah, it can only go really well.
I feel fine.
Yeah, I don't.
We need to get chips, don't we? Whatever you're drinking this weekend, post pictures. We have but a week left of Spooky Month. We have plans for our episode coming out near to Halloween, but if you have suggestions of more spooky tales that we could cover on the main episode or on Patreon, keep sending them through. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week, and remember, your loved ones and sharks are trying to kill you.
Bye.